If you prick us, do we not bleed? If you tickle us, do we not laugh? If you poison us, do we not die? And if you wrong us, shall we not revenge? William Shakespeare. Poison. Richard Peasy wrote in his article titled Pointing to Poison, which was featured in the Chemistry Chronicle, that poison is a woman's first choice of weapon, due to the fact that it does not require a direct frontal assault, and it plays to the view of the deceitful feminine nature. When I graduated high school, I received a poison ring, and I decided to do a little bit of research on it. And in doing so, I learned about many women who used poison to commit murder. Today I'm going to tell you about 6 women from 3 different periods: the Renaissance, the 17th century, and the Victorian age. We'll begin with the Renaissance and the poison ring, which was also known as a vessel ring. Now mine, you would flip this, pull this out, dump it in, close it up, and lock it back up. No one would be the wiser. Peasy tells us, as well as an article from Marcy Waldy, written in October of 2001, titled A Ring to Die For, that Lucrezia Borgia also owned a vessel ring, and that inside this ring was a family recipe known as La Cantarilla. Now she would dump this poison into the drinks of her enemies and her family's enemies. Peasy also tells us of another woman during this time period, Catherine de Medici, later known as the Queen of France. Now she would experiment on the poor and the ill before using poisons to kill her enemies. And then we move to the 17th century. During this time, Peasy tells us of the greatest poisoner in history, Tofana. Tofana created a liquid arsenic poison which she sold and trained her clients how to use to poison. She was directly and indirectly responsible for 600 murders, 2 of which were popes. From the Brooklyn Museum, we learn about Catherine de Chay, also known as La Voisin. Now, she was a fortune teller, and she sold poison and love potions to the French upper class. She was also the central figure in the affairs of poison during Louis XIV's reign. The last period we'll cover is the Victorian age. Now during this time, we're told by Catherine Ransland in her article Forensic Toxicology about Mary Ann Cotton. Mary Ann Cotton murdered her mother, her children, biological and step, an acquaintance, and 4 husbands. Now it's said that they died from gastric fever, which was popular back then. The last one is the most interesting to me. This case still remains unsolved. And this is from an article titled Adelaide Bartlett and the Pimlico Mystery by Michael Farrell. Now, Adelaide Bartlett supposedly poisoned her husband. His stomach was full of chloroform, and yet his mouth and throat had no burns. So how did the chloroform get there? That's the mystery. This case is still unsolved. They have no idea how the chloroform ended up in his stomach and poisoned him. I'm sure there's plenty of more cases, but time is limited. I've enlightened you of these 6 women, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Poison, a woman's weapon of choice. females from the Renaissance, 17th century, and the Victorian age, all were murderers by poison. Whether in a ring or stored elsewhere, poison is a lethal weapon. There's not many poisonings now, thanks to science and technology. But let me ask you, how well do you know the women in your life?